I'm still in shock that this happened to me as a flight attendant, someone who travels all the time. But because I just went through it, I wanted to share my experience and give you some things I learned in the process. I took a trip to the Dominican Republic that should have been about 30, 32 hours, and then I would have been home. But that's not what happened. In order to get back into the USA, you have to show a negative COVID test, and I tested positive. During the whole pandemic, I was never afraid of getting COVID. The only thing I was afraid of was giving somebody COVID. Bottom line, got an Airbnb, was just going to stay there and wait till I was well enough to get back to America. Because of the unpredictability of COVID, I was very scared to be going through it by myself, especially being in a country in an area where nobody really spoke English. And I don't speak Spanish. So long story short is I stayed there for 3 days. Every morning, waking up expecting to have some kind of horrible symptoms and had nothing. 2 days later, I still had no symptoms. So I got a COVID test and I tested negative. This test had multiple steps and it was different than the test I'd used before. So I was like, well, maybe it's not accurate. So just wait one more day. Again, no symptoms. So the next day I went up to the airport and I got a test at the airport lab. Thank goodness it was negative. So 3 days later, I'm finally able to go home. There's so much more that I can say, but I know that the attention span on TikTok is very, very short. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. But here's what I learned. First, if you're going out of the country, make sure you understand exactly what that country's rules are if you test positive for COVID. Some countries want you to report it with them. Next, bring COVID tests with you so that you can test before you actually go to the airport. If you have a negative test that you did and then you test positive, then you can retest. Next, do your test off-site of the airport so that if you do get a positive test, you can retest at the airport lab. And last but not least, don't let something like this, because it's got to be rare, prevent you from living your life and traveling. Because honestly, if I would have had a test with me and tested negative before my positive test because I had no symptoms, I would have just retested at the airport lab. Anyways, there's a lot of other stuff that happened on this trip that I will laugh about later, like locking myself out on the patio. But until then, all the people that gave me so much support when I was going through this, I really, really appreciate it.